Good evening, everybody. We are here with Jack Chavez. Did I say that right? I hope
That's
I
right.
did.
Yep.
Uh, from Chicago Paranormal, and he runs this convention I'm going to next week that by himself pretty much. So he
Yep.
puts this whole thing together, and he's here to talk about it. So
Hey,
welcome, Jack, and my special guest host, Nick, who will
hey,
also be joining me next week, Saturday.
That's
well,
correct.
I want to thank you guys for having me on your show. Nick, it's been a while since I seen you, so
Yeah, well, and,
and
and also as far as up, and there's Kate who might be attending also next week as well, depending on her schedule.
hey,
So this
Kate.
was the first time, not only Joe's first time of meeting one of our newest investigators, Jack, and but yeah, I'm looking forward to next weekend.
Yeah, next weekend should be great. Saturday, June 7th. I have over 80 vendors. I'm gonna have there's gonna be in total 4 presentations on the paranormal. There was 5, but somebody just canceled yesterday. But 4 presentations on the paranormal, and it's just $1 entrance. I mean, you can't beat it. Just $1 to get in.
Hey, you can't even buy a taco for that nowadays.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it. I've been doing this for a couple years. It's a whole lot of fun, and you're right, Joe. I do it by myself. I don't have a team helping me, but you know what? It's good. I like it a lot. I meet a lot of new people every year. I try to keep it fresh every year. By the way, there's going to be food there. It's going to be a Creole, Louisiana food. Um, so yeah, it's going to be great.
Should have a nice day too, because I was checking the weather ahead of time.
Yeah, believe me, I've been checking the weather too. It looks like it's going to be about 80 degrees that day and sunny.
Yep,
Yeah.
So
that's what I was checking earlier today too. Was that it was? I'm thinking, wow, this is going to be perfect. The weather's going to be great. I hope it's, of course, I hope it stays that way because it's still a week away.
you know what? Last year we did have the second half of it. There was a storm and it rained
Yeah.
a lot, and we still got a damn decent number of people
That
that
must have
came
been
inside.
after I left.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been there 3 years in a row now.
Oh, God bless you, Joe. Thank you very much. Honestly,
Actually, this year will be
Same
the
with me
third year,
too. I
but
mean, I've been coming almost every year as well,
I
and I've
I
always
know,
enjoyed.
and Nick, you were a presenter of mine.
And that's what I was about to get to. I remember, yeah, one of those times I was speaker for the 2022 events, and that was the first time I've ever been a speaker at any event whatsoever. So that was quite a
I've only done
debut.
it once.
Well, Nick, you talked about creepy pastas, internet urban legends. I got a lot, and I think I told you this before, but I got a lot of good feedback from you. I mean, about you, I should say, about you, and people loved your presentation, dude. I was so busy I couldn't hear your whole presentation, but I did catch a little bit of it, and you were fantastic. I mean, at some point, I got to have you back.
Yeah, of course, I would love to be a speaker again.
And Joe, maybe at some point you too. We'll see.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot. I just, you know, don't
Yeah.
know exactly when I'm going to be there or not. I mean, the last thing we were at was that paranormal meetup at that bar that where I saw you.
Right.
That was sponsored by you and the Booze Goose or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah. The
that.
booze cruise.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be there that night too. Unfortunately, it was also a really good friend of mine's birthday that night, so we were celebrating, her birthday. So as much as I wanted to be there, I couldn't, and I
Yeah.
already committed to it. So if you guys have it again, something like that again, definitely next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Eventually we will.
So before we
Great.
go further with the convention, Kate's got a question. All right, for Jack. How did you get into the paranormal?
Kate, when I was a kid, I had the same question. how the heck does somebody get into the paranormal, right? And there's so many different ways to do it. The way that it happened to me is I started helping out with ghost tours in Chicago, and I was helping this one company out. I wasn't necessarily working for them. Basically, I was just volunteering my time, at the time, and yeah, I was just volunteering, and I was doing tours, and then it kind of took off from there. I started helping out with presentations, and eventually I started doing my own presentations. Either a library would contact me, or I would contact the library and say, hey, you know Halloween season is coming up, do you want a speaker on ghosts? So yeah, it's a very gradual process. Unfortunately, the paranormal is not like other jobs where you just apply and you get in. No, you gotta do a lot of hard work in order to get in.
and you don't get paid for it.
Yep.
And you
Correct.
don't get paid for it. Yeah, that's right. You know, I mean, doing the tours now and doing public ghost investigations. I get a little bit of money here and there, but it's certainly it's certainly
Yeah, it's not going to support you.
yeah, it's not going to support
Yeah.
you. No. Yeah.
So she's got another question now. What are your beliefs on the paranormal, having seen a lot of presentations?
Um, my beliefs on the paranormal. I'm not sure I understand. So basically, I think because the paranormal is such a broad term, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yep.
You have everything from UFOs to ghosts to psychic phenomena. Then you have cryptozoology, occult practices, etc., right? So I try to go into the paranormal with an open mind, but I always say not too open. You have to have that balance between skepticism and belief. And I have my bachelor's degree in anthropology, so I kind of approach the paranormal in an anthropological framework, meaning I I hear out the accounts and people's stories. I take it in, and I kind of just like observe what's going on, and I document. You know, um, and in terms of like when I go on ghost investigations, I do bring some of the equipment. I actually don't have a wide range of ghost equipments, and I do that on purpose because I just don't feel like there's a need for it. A lot of my unexplained um, experiences while ghost investigating has been when no equipment is going on. So
yeah, I hear that. It's like when you're not prepared, that's when something happens.
yeah,
Yep.
We were in an old art mill in Grafton, Wisconsin, investigating it, and me and my buddy went down from the third floor out to have a smoke, and he had these three lights along this one hallway on the first floor, and they're all hooked up to the same switch, so they all should turn on at the same time, right? We were walking down to go outside, and next thing you know, that middle light comes on. Not any of the other, just the middle one, and it just blinks real quick at us and then turns off. And we had no
yeah,
cameras, nothing with us to document it.
right, yeah. That's always how it works.
And
It's
it's like, come on. And after that, I went out and bought a body cam.
yeah. Well, that's so there's a book called The Trickster and the Paranormal, and it's by Dr. George Hansen. I highly recommend this book. And what he talks about is it's almost as if the phenomena itself has a consciousness to it. That's why sometimes when you do have a camera, sometimes you don't even think to pull it out when something is happening in front of you, or your camera stops working, or the electronics stop working.
Yeah,
You know, it's like
batteries go drain.
the
Yep.
phenomena has a way of like diverting attention to itself.
Yep, yep, it sure does. You know,
Here's Kate's third question that she's asking
boy,
already.
she's full of questions tonight,
She's
isn't she?
always full of questions.
What's the best thing for you about this convention?
Kate is on a roll. I love it.
Yeah, she is. She is.
Keep them coming, Kate.
That's why I'm
No,
hoping she comes out for the Chicago event.
um, the best thing for me about the convention is meeting everybody, meeting new people, talking with friends, just all the interactions. And what I honestly like is seeing the people interact with one another. I mean, literally, relationships have formed, romantic relationships have formed because of my convention.
Wow,
And I think that's awesome.
that's
Um,
impressive.
Well,
friendships have formed because of my convention,
Well, yeah,
and I love it.
you know, I've got a good friend, but that's mostly because I've been seeing him at the conventions wherever I go, and I keep talking to him all the time. So, and he's going to be at your convention with his mother this year, and I have plans on stopping by and seeing his booth. So,
Oh, that's awesome! Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about.
Barnaby Jones.
But Barnaby he will also be a speaker there.
Yeah,
yep.
that's right. He will, won't he?
Yeah.
So, who are going to be the other speakers there?
So I have Barnaby Jones. I have Chad Lewis.
Yeah, I know Chad.
Yep. Chad
Every
Lewis.
time I walk through that door for the past 3 years, he sees me coming and he goes like this, "Come here, I want to talk to you. Come here."
That's awesome. Yeah, I have Barnaby Jones, Chad Lewis. I have Desiree Pittman. She's a medium. Um, and then I have Phil Mendoza, who is a non-Christian exorcist. So
That should
it's
be interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
So a little bit about Phil Mendoza is he's been a devoted student of the occult sciences for well over 25 years and has enjoyed membership with a variety of esoteric orders. Phil serves as an adept in the Golden Dawn, where he supports initiates in their growth and knowledge of the esoteric arts. He is the author of They Devour in Silence: Tales from an Exorcist in Chicago, and his presentation will cover his work as an occultist and an exorcist in Chicago.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I was excited to get him on board. Last year he was just a vendor, and then afterwards, I was just having these great conversations with him, and then I eventually asked him, I'm like, hey, why don't you come on board as a speaker? So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, you had some interesting ones the past few years up there. Barnaby Jones has been a regular speaker for the last couple of years. Chad Lewis, and then the others just kind of rotated or something. But yeah, there
Yeah.
was some interesting ones. Like I said, I was there the last 2 years. This will be my third going, and those 2 years I had fun listening to the speakers as well.
Yeah, no, I try to get an eclectic, speakers. They all have very different presentations, and like you said, Joe, Chad Lewis and Barnaby Jones have been returning. However, they are giving different presentations every year they come.
Yes. Oh yeah.
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 Barnaby Jones actually this year he's going to be talking about the Dogman reports
Oh,
in the
dog.
Midwest, and I'm excited about this because
Oh man, I need to get in on that with him.
yeah,
I'm
Barnaby,
serious. As much of the investigation that we've done into the Beasts of Bray Road,
yeah,
we've been doing the Beasts of Bray Road every year since 2019, and we've built up a lot of evidence and a lot of stories. And
oh,
I've
that's
got a lot of
awesome.
opinions on that topic.
Well, um, yeah, and Barnaby he's excited about about talking about it because he said he's never done a presentation on Dogman. So I just talked to him recently, and he said this past year he actually did spend a lot of time um, doing research on Dogman. Of course, he was already familiar with Dogman, but he's done a lot of research on Dogman recently. He's gone through the history going back to ancient times. So, I'm pretty excited about that. And then Chad Lewis, Chad Lewis, his presentation this year is going to be the correlation between UFOs and cryptozoology.
Wow.
That
And
ought to be
I
an
know Chad's
interesting
done a
topic.
lot with cryptozoology. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago. I think that he released a book on the big money monster down in Southern Illinois,
I
which
actually have that book.
yeah, which I heard he also attended the Big Money Monster Festival down there, which I would have loved to have gone to, but problem is Murfreesboro is like 6.5 hours south of here.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot of books by Chad Lewis because Chad Lewis is one of those authors that write those books that got me started. When we decided to go into the paranormal, I started looking in Chad Lewis's books because he's from here. He
Right.
actually lives. What would that be? The west side of the state, over there by La Crosse area and Devil's Punch Bowl, and
Yeah, kind of close to the Wisconsin Minnesota border.
right, yeah, over that way. Yeah,
He's
so he's from here. He goes to the Hodag Festival every year in
yeah,
Rhinelander, and that one's a joke, but that
yeah.
well, it's like out of all the cryptids, I mean, you get down to the core of it, and it's like I don't remember the exact date, but they were having trouble drawing in tourism to Rhinelander, so they made up this creature made of a bunch of different, you know, and they just said, oh, and then it just caught on like wildfire, and they got a festival for the thing every year, and a big
Yeah.
statue in the center of town. You
You
know,
you know the thing with the hodag is like you're right, Joe. It's pretty silly. It's very likely not an actual creature. At the same time, I love that that it gets people excited and people have a fest for it, and it brings people together. It's just it's really interesting. You know.
Yeah,
well,
it's like
they,
it
they
doesn't
got
stand, it
creative
stands up to
enough
the
to
other
make
cryptids.
they got creative enough to make something that captures the interest of people, and they made it so believable by
Yeah.
creating sightings and stuff that people swear that they've seen it today.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's kind of like a topa
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very much so.
now.
Yeah. I feel
Okay.
like that's a lot of things in the paranormal. Like things could probably start out as just totally folkloric, and then people start seeing it. So
Kate's got her fourth question ready to go.
Let's see. In what order would you put these topics as things you most believe in? Aliens, spirits, legends, and other dimensions.
um huh well, I would say I mean, I feel like I feel like all those are pretty much like you could put on the same level, because as many people that see UFOs and encounter aliens are have the same number of people that see spirits. So it's I think there's a high probability for all those things and other dimensions, parallel universes. I mean, heck, even a couple years ago, even actually recently,
Excuse
there's
me.
been
Sorry.
bless you, Nick. There's been scientific articles that have come out where these scientists are saying that there are other dimensions that exist.
Well,
You know,
yeah, and you think about it, we're just a small little like pea size, even smaller than that, Earth is just a tiny little planet in a huge galaxy of much huger solar system, and for us to be uh, naive and stupid enough to think that we're the only planet with life on it, that,
Yeah.
that that's kind of a closed way of thinking, you
Right.
know, because you've got I mean, scientists have discovered other planets that can sustain, they got like the same elements or makeup of Earth, so they could sustain human life form,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
you know, and that's just one of, so many, and God knows how many or more are out there that have yet to be explored because we don't have the technology to only go so far right now, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, even when you get into quantum physics, and you start breaking down everything on a subatomic level, that's a whole other world
Yeah,
out there as well. And physics works differently on a subatomic level. We know this, right? So it's like, you don't even have to go far out into space. When you just look at a microscopic level right here in front of us, you
yeah.
know?
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I always say it, especially at the end of our shows. It's like anything's possible,
Yeah.
you know? I mean, they've got, when it comes to like our cryptids, for example, all right? You've got these things that are coming back that supposedly went extinct 65 million years ago or whatever, and they're washing up on the shores.
The coelacanth, yeah.
Yeah,
Coelacanth,
like
yeah,
the coelacanth.
1938.
Yeah, exactly. And they're discovering new species because now they've got the ability to go to these islands and stuff that they couldn't go to before because they were either off limits or it was just way too dangerous.
Right.
And each time they go there, they're discovering new things, new species of plants, new species of animals. I mean, when something goes extinct, how do you really know it's extinct in the first place?
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like right here in Illinois. For the longest time, they've said that mountain lions are extinct in Illinois, but and they were saying that for a long time, even though there's been like mountain lion sightings, right? Um, but I think it was last year or 2 years ago, there was I believe he was a state trooper that actually accidentally hit one with his car, and that made it to the news.
Yeah,
So now,
I
of course,
heard
there
about
is
that.
this like skeptical um, view of it, and where you could say like, well, it's not that the mountain lion is native to Illinois, just kind of crossed the border and kind of like found its way in. I mean, yes, that is definitely a possibility, but I mean, isn't it just as possible that they never went extinct in Illinois?
Yeah, because if you
Well,
really look, if you look beyond, like look through the state's history, there's actually been these mountain lion. They're also, of course, they're also known as phantom panthers or cats or ABCs, alien big cats.
Right. Yeah.
Which, despite their name, they're not truly extraterrestrial.
No. No.
That's
No. No.
but
but that
that
also,
I mean, the earliest sighting I've seen goes back at least as far as to the late 1900s, early 1900s. Excuse me.
Yeah.
well, that then they say panthers don't exist sometimes, and they say, well, the cougar or the mountain lion, whichever one you want to call it, depending on where you live in this world, it's the same cat. Just depends on where you live. But they said, oh, it doesn't get that disease. Where the melatonin disease where it turns it all black. Why not? Other felines get it. You got black bobcats. You've got, all black other cats. And what is it? The most common one is the jaguar and the panther that they say is they call it a black leopard
Yeah,
or black panther. Excuse me.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, Oh, but you go and look that up, or you go and talk to DNR, and they say, "Oh, that doesn't exist in this state." The hell it don't, you
There's
know.
also that belief too that sometimes there I mean, there is also it's a possibility too. I mean, you can't rule it out. They also say some of these so-called panthers out there are also either escaped zoo animals or somebody that brought them here illegally and kept them as pets, and then
Right. Yeah.
turned them loose after they became too big to take care of.
Yeah.
You
That's
know,
the whole thing with the phantom kangaroo sightings.
Yep, and kangaroo sightings too. That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah. There were actually a couple reports in Chicago. Um, one of them actually by a police officer.
Yeah, I think it was at
Uh,
Schiller Park. I think, and that was
yeah,
back that
I
was
think
back
you're
in
right.
the '70s when that happened.
Actually, Nick, I think that was the '80s.
Oh, I thought it was the '70s. I
Oh,
could be
you know
wrong.
what? You're right. You know
Oh,
what,
was
Nick?
it?
You're
Okay,
right.
yeah, it was in the '70s then.
Yeah, you're right. It was in the '70s. He went on to be interviewed. Actually, a researcher named Adam Sulzer
Yep.
uh, interviewed him just a couple years ago, not that long ago, because he's still alive. He's an older man, retired, obviously, but he went on to say that, like, yeah, he saw the kangaroo, but he doesn't believe it was any type of phantom. He believes that it probably escaped from some circus.
Like some zoo of some sort.
well,
Yeah,
back in the '70s, though, if it was the '70s, back in the '70s, a lot of the circuses and carnivals had like what you would call like freak shows, and they'd have like the boxing kangaroo, and it would be a thing, box this kangaroo, and if you can last so many minutes, you win a couple $100 or something.
yeah.
They always had, some of these carnivals or whatever had a kangaroo that traveled with them just for that purpose.
I'm just going to respond quickly for what Kate had said because she's been talking about this stuff about octopuses, which, first of all, I didn't know that they had 9 brains. I had no idea. But the fact that she's also talking about that they may have been seeded from space with alien viruses or whatever the case is, that actually brings kind of another cryptid involved. It's not here from Illinois. It's actually down in Oklahoma. And it's kind of one of the newer cryptids because it was featured on that show. I don't know if you guys remember that show, Lost Tapes. You guys remember that series?
Oh,
Lost
yeah, on
what?
Animal Planet.
Yeah, it was like a found footage series, but involving cryptids. And one of the early episodes was involving something known as the Oklahoma octopus, which supposedly, from what I heard, is that it said to inhabit 3 lakes throughout Oklahoma. One was Lake Thunderbird. Um, I forgot the other two names are, but the weird thing is about the Oklahoma octopus is that they said there have been sightings of it, but I haven't been able to find any, at least online. But they say supposedly it's been mostly because a lot of people have drowned in these 3 lakes. So supposedly they think it's actually responsible for the numerous drownings that occur in these lakes throughout the state of Oklahoma, which I could see where there could be somewhat of an alien kind of view to it because I think we all know octopuses they're saltwater creatures. They never really live in lake. They don't really live in lakes as far as we know.
Yeah, but we know so little about them. They could be like a bull shark where they can adapt from
Yeah,
saltwater to freshwater because bull sharks have been seen in the Illinois and Wisconsin via the
yep,
Mississippi River.
that's correct. Yeah, I just looked up. The other 2 lakes are Lake Ugala and Lake Tenkiller, and it's said to be large reddish brown with tentacles, rumored to be responsible for unexplained drownings and disappearances in these waters.
Well, there was a hypothetical documentary series called Future Planet,
Yeah,
and it envisioned how how the world would look after humans, what animals would evolve,
I
and
saw that. I saw that a long time ago. Yeah.
yeah, and it goes on to say that squids eventually become the dominant species. So I thought that was interesting.
That sounds very so. I don't. I remember hearing about it. I've never watched it, but it sounds very similar to the series, the History Channel series, Life After People.
Yeah,
Yeah, it kind of was, to be honest. Yeah,
yeah, I think I saw that once.
you should check it out, Nick.
Yeah, I'm definitely considering that.
And it's just that there is so much that we haven't been able to explore just on land alone, where things could just get away with hiding from us, you know. And what's that old saying? If you're gonna hide, the best way to hide is in plain sight,
Yeah,
Right. Yep.
you know. And you think about this, all these Bigfoot sightings, Dogman sightings, Mothman sightings, are you saying that all these people are seeing something or on drugs all over the United States and describing the same character or the same thing? Highly unlikely. They're seeing something.
Yeah. Well, that's what keeps me in the paranormal, because there's been so many sightings of any one thing. Whether it's ghosts or UFOs, shadow people, etc. There's too many sightings, and the whole the scientific community is built on the idea that if you see something, then you know it should be investigated, right?
yeah.
And that's where I'm at. If
But
so many
sometimes they
people,
don't investigate. That's just it. They just automatically chalk something up and say, "Oh, that doesn't exist."
well, that's what I'm saying. That's where the scientific community, drops off. But their basis is that if something is observable, then we need to figure out what it is,
Yeah,
right?
they should go and
Yeah.
investigate. You
Right.
know,
Yeah.
I
Well, that
mean,
we go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry.
with this Dogman thing, I mean, I'm fascinated with the Dogman story because that's basically what the Beast of Bray Road is. Okay,
Yeah.
but when I started researching the Beast of Bray Road and I got access to this property, we ended up, well, I didn't end up doing it. Barnaby Jones ended up naming the property the Skinwalker Ranch of Wisconsin. Okay, because there was a lot more that met the eye there. But
Yeah.
I was expecting just all these stories about this dog man. Got a lot more than what I bargained for. But when it comes to the dog man, what people don't understand is that at the same time dire wolves existed, okay, and they're not as big. They're not, they make them things out to be huge. They're not that much huge. They're not that much bigger than you really think they are. And at the same time, though, gray wolves existed at the same time. Okay, which is the common wolf that is found here and in Illinois.
Yeah.
Um, those wolves coexisted at the same time. You can't guarantee that they didn't crossbreed, and you could get like for a lack of better words, a freak of nature where you get one extra large wolf because of the dire wolf
I
DNA
was about to say
is
dire
so
wolves.
dominant in that particular wolf. You see it in dogs. They're all canines. I've got a dog. I've had two dogs in the last 10 years, and the first one that passed away, he passed away on me. I think he was poisoned, but he's the closest thing, a domestic dog. He's the closest domestic dog to a wolf there is. He's one of the few breeds, but it's a purebred Siberian Husky, and that mother was big to the point where my neighbors were afraid just by his looks. They thought he was a wolf
Right.
or a
Yeah.
wolf hybrid. and I think they got scared and he got poisoned because he died like that quick, you know. But the current one I have, Joy, she's about 9 years old. She's not even close to his size. But the thing, they're the most friendly dog breed there is. You give them a belly rub and they'll roll over on their back and they're like, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Sure.
Give me more, give me more.
Yeah.
I mean, out of all the cryptids, if I were to run into, the dog man or the wolf, that's probably the one I'd be the least afraid of.
Right.
You know, I mean, I'd be more afraid if I ran into Mothman or Bigfoot or something, especially after watching that movie, The Mothman
Oh,
Prophecies
Mothman Props. That's a good movie.
with
Yeah.
Richard Gere. I just watched that for the first time about a week ago. 'Cause it
Good
was
movie,
on
right?
TV. Yeah, it was a good movie.
It's funny. When I was at the Mothman Festival almost 10 years ago, they had like one of those big vans, like an RV almost, and there was a television on the side of it, so like you could watch something from. And I thought they were showing two different things like each time I came back. The first time I came there, ironically enough, they were showing the first episode of Stranger Things on the TV. And then when he came back later, they were showing, not surprisingly, the Mothman Prophecy. So I thought that was kind of a cool
Yeah.
addition to add to the actual festival to try to stick like truly by its name.
That's pretty awesome. The only reason why I haven't gone to the Mothman Fest is because I heard it's really crowded now.
Yep. So that was I was going to ask you how come you haven't gone, but to be honest with you, from experience, since I've gone there myself, I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, it's a lot of fun,
Sure.
but the
It's a lot.
problem is, the problem is that it's exactly what you would imagine. Point Pleasant being a small backwoods town, the area it's like crammed in, literally. I mean, if you're going to like close to like where the Silver Bridge collapsed, like close by the Ohio River, there's not, as I remember, there wasn't that many people over there unless you move further down because they usually have like a concert or something.
Yeah.
But in the actual event itself, it's usually, and also one other problem too is, unlike most Paracons, this event mostly is mainly outside. Most of the vendor tables are outside, although they have tents. But they have the, I forgot the name of the building, the theater they have in Point Pleasant. That's where they have the speakers speak. But the unfortunate issue is maybe it's changed since I was there. I could be wrong. But last time we were there was no air conditioning in that theater. So
Ooh,
Oh wow.
it must have gotten ripe.
yeah, I mean, it was freaking hot in there. I mean, I don't know if they've added AC now, but the time I went, it was bad, really bad. And you have to remember, this is September, and in this part of the country, it was still really hot out during that
Yeah.
time.
You see, I mean, I'm sure it's a great time. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, it is.
But it's if it's gonna be that crowded and then it's gonna take hours just to get your car out of there, it's like I don't
Yeah,
know.
you go, well, and then
What
if
I-
you drive, it's going to take you hours just to get there in the first
from where-
place. You don't want to
Yeah.
spend hours to get out of there. I mean, that's the other thought. I thought about that, like going to the what was that? The Van Meter.
Van Meter Festival.
Yeah, and I thought about that, and I heard how crowded it was, and it's like,
Yeah.
you know. I mean, I don't drive anymore, so my wife does all the driving when we go anywhere. So
Sure.
And the other, well, I can remember too, also when we were in the Mothman Festival, because the streets were so packed up, obviously there was no way we were going to be able to stay close to the actual event, like as far as hotels were concerned. We actually had to drive like an hour out. We had to get a hotel an hour outside of Portland,
Wow. You see,
which
yeah.
well, it wasn't even in the state of West Virginia. We were actually in very northeastern Kentucky. So so it was like a tri-state type of trip. We literally had to drive from very like northeastern Kentucky, southeastern part of Ohio, and then to get to Point Pleasant, West Virginia, because it's right on the Ohio-West Virginia border.
Yeah.
So we had to drive like two states at a time to get to Point Pleasant and back. Back to, I don't remember which area of Kentucky it was, but that's where we had to get our hotel.
Wow. Well, Kate's got another question here.
Yep, I was going to say she's got her
This
next
one might even help her.
Yep.
What time is the convention? How long? Is there a schedule? Exciting stuff.
All right, Kate. Well, so it starts at noon, uh, Saturday, June 7th, 2025. Um, it starts at noon and goes till 7 p.m. Uh, like I said, just $1 entrance. The schedule. Well, here's the thing: the schedule for the speakers, I haven't created it yet, but honestly, you should come for all the speakers. They're all going to be greats. They're all going to surprise you. So yeah, just come for the whole day, Kate, because you're going to have a great time, and there's going to be enough to look at. So
Oh, I'm just going to say some things about for her, by the way. If she's able to make it, you should be happy about this. You should be happy to know this, Jack. But this will be her very first Paracon ever if she makes it out.
wow.
And also, I'm sure you don't get very many guests, at this event, but she's actually from the UK. So you'll
Oh,
notice very quickly she's got her, her British accent. So she'll be pretty much, as far as I can remember, your very first British guest at the
so
event.
so does she live in this area now, or?
Yeah, she lives down in, hope you don't mind me telling you, she lives in an hour away from me in Naperville.
Oh, I'm not far. I'm
Yeah.
not far.
And I know that also leads me to another question because it's actually about one of the vendors because I know he also lives in Naperville too. Do you know if Alexander Felix is coming out again this year? You know if he is?
Oh, yeah, he is.
Okay, yeah, that's good because that is also someone I would like to introduce Kate to because again, I know he runs the ghost tours for Naperville,
Yeah.
and I did tell Kate a while back about him, but I haven't really touched base with her on that recently.
Well,
So
Yeah.
that's what I would like for her to chat with if
you're
she's able
both
to make
kind of forgetting this. You want to make sure that people know that this is at the Countryside Banquet and Conference Center at 6200 Joliet Road, Countryside, Illinois.
That's right. Yes, I should have said that. It's the Countryside Banquet and Conference Center, 6200 Joliet Road. Now, here's the thing: you get there, and I know you guys already know this, but when you get there, you encounter a large black building, and it
Yep.
says Local 150 on it because it's a union building. What you got to do is you got to drive around the back. Now, you're going to be able to figure it out because you're going to see a bunch of cars in the back over there. But yeah, you drive around the back, and that's where the entrance is. But it's a very
It
large
was quite
building.
confusing the first time we were out
Yeah,
there.
I know.
Well, I have signs this time. I'm still learning things, but yeah, I'll
Well,
definitely have signs this
you
time.
had signs last time, but it's like
Yeah,
it's like I was kind of distracted, wasn't paying attention, and the whole thing was like you just trying to get there and excited to be there because
Yeah,
I wanted to. I go to these conventions for a couple of things. One, to listen to some of the speakers, and two, to make friends and connections.
right.
And some of these people I've met at these conventions are the most wonderful people you'd ever want to meet.
Yeah.
that's what I was about to say
You
too. When it
know,
comes to these events,
and after what was that paranormal greet and meet that was like 2 weeks ago or sometime in
Yeah.
whatever it was, that was by Laura Lee and Jeff. I didn't find time to talk to Laura Lee as much as I wanted to because they were sponsoring that event to the host, so they were very busy getting talked to a lot.
Mhm.
But I couldn't believe that here I am sitting at that bar talking to a real life Clarice. And if you don't get that reference, it's from Silence of the Lambs.
yep,
Oh,
I do.
because she worked for the
For the
FBI.
FBI,
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
we had a very interesting talk about Charles Manson,
Yeah.
and I see I'm in the paranormal, but I also like the serial killers, and there's a lot of topics you can blend in with this, and that was a real interesting talk that we
Yeah, Lorelai is great. It's
because
funny.
you kind of look at this, and I've done it before, and I'll do it
Yeah,
again.
I already know exactly what you were about to bring up.
Let's see, it's been a while.
Then
Uh,
Kate has yet another question after this, but yeah, as he's uploading this, I'm just gonna say I definitely agree with a lot with what Joe's been saying. That's what I love about going to these. Oh, there it is, there it is.
there it is. That's father and son.
Yeah,
well, many Well, it's like many years ago before my mom passed away. She needed to ride places most of the time. She didn't drive, and so I was taking her to the doctor one day, and all of a sudden she just looked at me. She's like, "Anybody ever tell you you look like Charles Manson?" And it's like, "Thanks a lot, mom." And I've had fun with it ever since, though.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Yeah, that's a spitting image, Joe. I love it.
oh, I think we already know the answer to this one
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
there's gonna be lots of them. I
We talked
recommend
about
you
with
buy.
Chad Lewis with her books. I
I
mean, with
was
his
just
book.
gonna say, Kate, I recommend you at least buy one of Chad Lewis's books, and let me see, it would. Um, I think this is the one right
Nice
here.
ACD shirt, by the way.
Yeah, actually, this is by Chad Lewis and Terry Fisk.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
that book. Yeah, you know what? I actually do own one of his books. Now that you showed me that one, it's
Well, not
upstairs.
only do
Yeah,
I own his books, but I also have a lot of
Oh,
his books
signed.
autographed by
there
him.
you go.
That's awesome. Yeah, Kate, there's going to be a lot of vendors that have books. Chad Lewis himself has several books, and obviously he's going to be there. The Chicago ghost hunter Dale Kazmarek is going to be there, and he has
This
several
one's going to be
books.
another one that Chad's got. Hidden headlines of Wisconsin. I think
That's
he's
good.
got one for Illinois as well. Um, the big buddy, yeah, he's got a lot of books.
I'm
Uh,
going to have a local author, Nicole Tito. She has a book on EVPs that she wrote about, and she's going to be there.
now,
Tone,
because Merrick, I know him.
Yep.
He
yep.
uh, he went along with us to do the Beasts of Bray Road 2 years in a row. I think we did. Because we did a day thing and then we went back and did one nighttime investigation. And I've done a lot with Dale Kazmarek.
Yeah.
A lot of collaborations with him. We went to FAR school with him in Iowa. We did the Buddy Holly crash site in Iowa. We did the Stevie Ray Vaughan crash site here in Wisconsin at
Oh,
Alpine
wow.
Valley.
There you go.
Wow.
Wow.
Um, yeah, I've done a lot of things with Chad Lewis. Been out to Valley of the Kings twice with him.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, these guys, they're even the older guys like Dale Kazmarek, he's still kicking, you know?
Yeah, I consider Dale kind of like a mentor.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Because I've known him since the start, and he's been on our show more than anybody else.
sure.
So
Yeah, no, he's super knowledgeable. It's great. Some of his stories that he has are not even in books,
no,
you know?
no, some of his stories are very interesting. He's a very I get on the phone with that man, and I'll end up on the phone for 2 hours
Yeah.
plus. With him telling me stories.
You
So,
know, one of my favorite memories of Dale is I went to go pick something up from his house. He wanted to promote something he was doing, so I go to his place, and he goes, "Hey, do you want to come on in?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And then he showed me his basement, which is like a mini paranormal museum.
I
I
can
mean,
just imagine.
he's collected stuff over the years. He has everything labeled. He has files. It's awesome.
Well, the guy's been doing this since the 70s.
Right. Yep.
Yeah, he's been doing. He probably runs, I think, the oldest paranormal group in Chicago because
Yeah,
he's
the
running it now.
Ghost Research Society.
The Ghost Research Society now for 50 years since 1975.
Yeah. 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 You're right, Nick. It is the oldest one.
Yeah,
You know.
I mean, not necessarily the oldest paranormal group in the country, but it's definitely the oldest here in Chicago.
I wonder which one is the oldest. Do we
I
know?
actually have done my research, and this is not. In fact, it wasn't even a group that was from here. Believe it or not, it was from the UK. There is actually a group that is still obviously in operation today. Ironically, it's called the Ghost Club, and
Oh.
they formed, believe it or not, back in 1862. Although
Oh,
Um,
their origins, however, go back even a few years prior, because the interest of them, started, as a group. Their origins go as far back as at least 1855, and they're
wow.
still, and even though obviously the original members are long gone now, that group is still active today, 170 years later.
That's
So
awesome.
it really is. They've never really been featured like on a lot of the paranormal shows. I mean, there was a segment I did find. It was of them from the mid '90s, I think, and it was I can't remember what location it was. And there's actually been some recognized British like well-known figures over the past 170 years that whether or not they were actually investigators, they were still either members or associated with the Ghost Club
Right.
at least a few years ago. I do remember one podcast, one of them from the UK, where in a very rare case, they actually interviewed one of the Ghost Club members, which, again, they don't really appear, as far as I know, they don't really do as much interviews or shows like as you would
Yeah.
think
It
they.
doesn't seem like it. Yeah.
And the other thing, too, I mean, when they first formed, I mean, the Ghost Club, obviously, being the mid 19th century, was kind of more of a secretive type of group. Men and women were both allowed to join, and
Yeah.
not very much of a huge paranormal element to them compared to like what they are now. So I think it's probably safe to say that pretty much a lot of us around the world as of today, as well as investigators from the last 50 to 100 plus years, were pretty much direct descendants of these original investigators, if you
Yeah.
will, because we pretty much have followed a lot in their footsteps.
Sure. Yeah. I like what Kate says. Joe remembers he was there.
yeah. I
He's a
keep saying
vampire.
I'm a vampire. I'm going to live forever. And she's like, I lost my British accent, though. Well, I didn't have a British accent. It would have been an Italian accent.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that. Oh wow.
Joe, if it's okay with you,
Yeah,
because
I had like what you call like AML leukemia back in December of 1995. I was diagnosed with leukemia. They told me I wasn't going to live to see Christmas, and basically after coming out of that, I had to keep my sense of humor. So I told people, because of my brother and all these people, I always worked third shift. I was a security officer and private investigator for years. So I
Yeah.
work overnight shifts and stuff like this. So I kept the hours of a vampire. I ate my meat, bloody rare. So it's like, all the things I did kind of, so everybody was calling me a vampire, and I just went with it too. And I kept saying it for a while. So, but we got to end this soon
um,
because it's
Joe,
about
if you
that
don't,
time.
before we do go, if it's all right with you, Kate's really been enjoying the show, and she actually is it all right if she jumps on for just a minute?
Well,
Just
yeah, let her jump on. She should have jumped on anytime. If she wanted to jump on, she should have said something. I would have sent her a
yeah,
link.
yeah. If you could,
Yeah.
is there a way I
Let's
could
do
send
it.
it to her? Yeah. So you'll finally. So before even the
Yeah,
event,
we can
now
go over a little
you're
bit.
gonna meet her, Kate. I'm just going, Kate, Jack. Sorry,
Close enough.
it's been a long
You
day.
got the link? Sending a link to her?
Yeah.
Did you send a link?
Oh wait.
Or do
Let
you
me
want
see.
me to do that?
I hope this works. Let me see if I can do this from my side. Give me a second. See if
Well,
possibly maybe it does say it does have the link invite to it, so we'll find out in just a second. Okay, she just saw it. And fingers crossed.
I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah, she's really nice. And she's only been living here in the Chicago area for at least about 2 years, so she's still relatively new to the city.
Oh, okay.
She's not the only one. She along with her husband and daughter are they're all new to the city. So we've
Okay,
kind
you got 2 minutes. I'm
of
timing now, not Nick
what's
time.
what's interesting, I'll even just say this for Kate, is that throughout her life too, although it's interesting. She's not only lived in the UK, she's actually lived in different parts of Europe. I mean,
She's
she's
well traveled. Just put it that way.
yeah,
That's
Yeah.
the easy way to put it.
life. But
Apparently.
when they came here to the United States, their first city of choice was Chicago.
Yeah.
Why?
It was.
I'm sorry, guys. I just, Chicago is very interesting. It's got a lot of history as far as the mob and stuff. That's another one of my passions, the mafia and stuff. But driving down in Chicago,
oh, it's a nightmare.
that's a fucking nightmare, man.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I drove for a living for a while, after I got cancer. And I had it got to a point where the airport here in Madison, well, I'm not in Madison anymore, but, in Madison, the airport would get declared an emergency. So we have to go pick them up. And I ended up picking up like an entire group of people because I had one of the vans that was a cab. Pick up this group of people and take them down to Chicago, O'Hare, right? Well, they didn't tell me. This is my first time not traveling to Chicago, but traveling to Chicago O'Hare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I've had plenty of experience of driving to Chicago before this. But this was the first time driving to Chicago O'Hare. They didn't tell me shit. Just drop them off at Chicago O'Hare.
Oh, here she is.
I didn't know there was 2 different lanes, and I got bitched at and stuff because I dropped them off in
Hi,
domestic
everyone.
lanes, and they wanted international. Hi, Kate.
Jack,
Hey, Kate.
Hi.
Kate, this is Jack.
Nice to meet you, Jack.
Nice to meet you, Kate.
Thank
Welcome to the show, Kate.
Thank you. Thank you for waiting for me. I just thought I'd jump on at the last 5 minutes or so because, it was super interesting. Really,
Okay.
really cool.
Okay, Kate, I'm going to interview you now.
Okay, go for it. Go.
All right. So where in the UK are you from and what brings you to the US?
Oh, gosh. So I'm originally from Norwich, which is the east end of England, sort of north from London, 2 hours from London on the train.
Sure.
Norwich. That's Norwich. Not many people have heard of it. And then, so I'm an English teacher. So I teach English as a second language.
Oh,
So
nice.
I moved to Spain. I lived in near Barcelona for 6 months. Then I moved to Italy and I lived there for 3 years. Then we moved to Germany for 4 years. And I also spent time in Holland, Amsterdam, because my sister and like a lot of my family live in Holland. And then we came to Chicago like 2 years, two and a half years ago.
2 years ago, at least, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why Chicago specifically?
We didn't really have a choice. It was my husband's company. So
Okay.
How many languages can you speak? How many languages can you speak and understand?
Italian is my second language. German is my third language. And I'm trying to learn French, which is my fourth. But that's it. I do understand Spanish because there are a lot of similarities
it's
with Italian.
it's real close. Yeah, I know
Yeah.
that. Because
Different articles, different words sometimes. But yeah, you kind of get the gist of it.
Now, Kate, you live in Naperville right now, correct?
Yes.
Okay, are you familiar with the house where the mother drowned her 2 kids?
I heard about that.
And now the house is haunted, but it's not a residence anymore. It's now taken over by the university.
Yeah, I did read a lot about that. I have to go and see it at some point and dig a little bit deeper. But before we moved here, I actually read about it and I was like, oh my gosh, like what kind of neighborhood is this? Yeah, that was quite terrifying.
I've conducted a Naperville ghost tour before, and that's one of the stories that we talked about. It's a really tragic story.
What was
But
that noise?
That was
Yeah.
what that was too.
oh, that was on my end. There's some, I don't know, they're doing stuff outside. It's
Oh, okay,
Chicago.
cool. Nothing paranormal.
Chicago.
That's good.
Felt like someone was scratching their fingernails like on a
Yeah, like
chalkboard
that's
or
your
something.
sign not to go. Like,
It's the Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
That's Chicago for you. But
yeah.
in a couple minutes, you'll probably hear gunshots too.
Oh,
Oh
great.
God.
But Kate, so what draws you to the paranormal? Like, what aspect of the paranormal are you fascinated by?
Oh, that's a really good question. I would say that so from the age of 8, so it's my dad. So my dad has had a lot of experiences. He's really, really interested in all things alien, extra dimensional, all that kind of stuff. And
Sure.
one of the first books I read as an 8-year-old was Chariot of the Gods. I
Oh
don't know
yeah.
if you've read it. Yeah.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
yeah, me and my dad kind of like studied it together and we spoke about it. And then we used to watch Ancient Aliens. And then I used to watch Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps. And then Most Haunted. Most Haunted was like so huge in the UK. And yeah, it was amazing. So I always wanted to be like a paranormal investigator as a teenager because I was like, oh, I really want to do that. That's so cool.
That's awesome.
And then I kind of lost it when I moved to Italy because in Italy they're very Catholic,
Yeah.
obviously, and anything to do with necromancy or communicating with the dead, anything like that, it was really a no-go. Like you do not talk about it, you don't pursue any of that sort of stuff. And then I guess I got back into it in Germany when I was like following some YouTubers and I was like, oh yeah, I forgot that I really enjoy, like the paranormal world and aliens and all that stuff. And yeah, thanks to a team in the UK, The Other Dimension, I kind of got in contact with them. I had a few shows with them and kind of had a spin-off with my own show for a while. And yeah, I just kind of got back into it and I got to meet Nick as well.
Yep.
So yeah.
Nick is like our resident, he's our global paranormal. I mean, he brings.
Well, and it's funny since you mentioned about like how in Italy they don't really do it that much. I mean, as far as like, 'cause some people have asked me, saying, "Well, have you ever found anyone in Italy?" And I said, as far as Italy is concerned, not surprising. I've only ever found like a small handful of actual paranormal investigators in Italy. So there's just not very many of them. In fact,
well, if anybody'd find them, you would, Nick.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well, and I just recently did find, in spite of what's going on right now, I did finally find my very first paranormal contact from Ukraine. So I've been in his name's Serge, and I've been in contact with him ever since.
That's awesome, actually.
Yeah.
Kate,
so cool.
Besides this podcast, I trust you watch my podcast as well.
What's your podcast?
Oh, Kate, you're killing me.
I'm so sorry. What is it?
It's called. It's on YouTube. It's called Channeling Chavez, like my last name.
Right. I'm gonna add it right now.
Okay, Channeling Chavez.
Another thing about Kate, and especially me, is that probably the reason why she hasn't watched a lot is because she and I also, along with a few others, also play Minecraft a little too much.
Yeah, we are a bit obsessed with Minecraft at the moment.
That'll do it. Now,
I just subscribed.
Oh, thank
with
you.
the movie just coming out, you would be.
Yeah, I still need to see that movie, speaking of which.
Now, Nick, I have a two-part question for you. How did you meet Joe? Because I didn't even know you guys knew each other, to be honest. So how did you meet Joe, and how did you meet Kate?
So to start off with Joe, because obviously I met him first. So Joe, we actually met. Well, he was watching some of our shows on the Things Network, and
actually, I met. I'll start this.
Okay? Yeah, why don't you go ahead, Joe?
All right, what happened is I don't remember. Yeah, I contacted Jeremy York, trying to get him as a guest on my show, and that was right around the same time he had his accident. So he was going through all this facial construction surgery. So we
Yeah.
had to put things on hold. But even though things went on hold, I kept communicating with Jeremy, and eventually I was brought into Things Network via Nick, you know.
Okay.
So I got contacted by Nick. I think I did a show with Jeremy, or I was on his show when he had his face and he started doing the shows again. And then there was Adrian Clayton, and I think you were on there too.
I think so.
And then later they asked me to do the Wisconsin chapter of Things. So
Okay. So that's
and
how
I've
that
been a
happened.
member of Things Network ever since then, because I had a falling out with those people at Paraflex.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's all I'll say on that.
So Joe found his own niche of weirdos.
Yeah,
which
so
is
now
us.
I'm
So
now
yeah,
not
it's all
just
good
part
now.
of not just part of Things Network. I'm also part of the BB3 TV as well.
Yep.
Okay.
So I've got some connections, but I eventually went to Illinois. Your convention, actually, the first time I went there was when I actually met Nick for the first time.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, in person, that is. So,
Oh,
yeah,
Yeah.
that was 2 years ago.
that's correct.
Wow.
That's awesome. And
You
then
know,
Nick, how did you meet Kate?
that's what, yeah. So, as for Kate, that was, again, it was kind of accidental, as I would describe.
It was on Scott's show, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Paranormal in History.
Yeah, I was on another podcast called Paranormal in History that's hosted by Scott Mathewson from Scotland. And I've been a guest on his show, a couple times, in these past few years. And up until then, I didn't meet Kate. But there was this one, I was on this show in particular, and I see this person obviously named Kate that's watching. And I think it was during like a particular conversation that I said something that, I'm from Chicago or something like that. And Kate just got all excited about it. She's like, oh my God, I'm from Chicago too.
Yeah, I was like, what? Because this is a Scottish podcast. So the guy he
Oh.
does it, he's like Glaswegian, and a lot of his guests are like UK based. So
Okay.
like when Nick was on there and he said he was from Chicago, I was like, wait a minute, I know that accent. Like, where's that accent from? I was like, oh my God, he's from Chicago.
We
Like,
don't have accents. You do.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It was just purely coincidental, wasn't it?
It was, but it was like not long afterwards. Same with Joe. We just had this great, with this great friendship that's formed. And in addition to the friendship, because since Joe mentioned that he runs the Things of Wisconsin chapter, I now officially run a chapter of my own, Things of Illinois. And she is part of that chapter now.
Oh.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Yeah, and we
very.
actually did that investigation together, that private
Joe and I did.
investigation.
I haven't done an investigation yet.
Well, that's the other thing. We're hoping that in July, because we do, Jeremy did put together an investigation for late July. And we're going to be investigating the old Lake County Jail in Crown Point, Indiana. And we're really hoping, depending on Kate's schedule, because since she hasn't been on in spite of her interest, she hasn't been on an investigation. We're really hoping we could finally take her on her very first investigation. And what better way than to make her debut than at the old Lake County Jail?
That'd be awesome.
Oh, that'd be cool.
I'm very skeptical though, so
it's good to have that skeptical side, though.
Yeah,
that's one thing that's still on my bucket list.
The jail. Jeremy probably extended it for all the chapters, so you probably still can go.
I wanted to go to that thing that Jeff and Lorelei did something with Joliet prison.
Oh, Joliet prison, yeah.
But I couldn't make it there that day, so.
So, Kate, are we going to see you next Saturday?
I really hope so. So my daughter has her dance recital that day. So I just need to see when that's going to wrap up. I think it's only a half an hour drive from here, so it's like no time at all. But yeah, I just have to organize because it's only me and my husband here in the States. So we don't have anyone, like no childcare, nothing like that.
Sure.
And, it was just a very small family. So yeah, I'm going to try and sort it out. So at least I can come for a little bit, at least definitely. And I get to meet everyone.
Yeah, that would be great.
And meet Joe because I've never met Joe in person. So
No.
yeah, we have to.
Wait,
Yeah.
so have you met Nick?
I get to Chicago quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think
Well,
last time you came, I was really ill, wasn't I? That was like a few months ago. I don't remember.
No, yeah, maybe, but
Yeah.
the last time I was actually there, it was for that thing at that Irish bar or whatever it was
Oh,
called.
yeah, the
Right.
meetup. What were you going to
Yeah.
ask, Jack?
Oh, was I going to ask something? I don't remember.
Yeah, I thought it was something saying, has she met me or something? I don't remember already. It sounded like it.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I was. I don't remember.
Well,
That's
either way,
another
we got to wrap this up. So, Jack, one more time, give the convention a plug.
Yeah, so it'll be Saturday, June 7th at from noon till 7 p.m., just $1 entrance. And Kate was asking a bunch of the questions, so I'm really glad about that. It's at the Countryside Convention Center, the Countryside Banquet and Conference Center on 6200 Joliet Road in Countryside, Illinois. Countryside is just outside Chicago. Like I'm talking like literally like
Yeah,
15
it's
minutes.
considered a suburb of Chicago.
Yeah, it's a suburb of Chicago. It's right off. It's literally right off I-55. It's like one of the first things you encounter when you get off the expressway.
Yeah.
And Kate, thank you so much for asking questions and watching, and Nick and Joe, thank you so much for having me on your show and stuff.
Thank you for
Thanks for
coming
coming
on.
on.
Thank
You guys should do a whole episode with just Kate.
Believe me.
No,
Yeah.
it would be boring because I would just not stop asking questions the whole time and everyone would get sick of it. So no.
I already know
These
from
two are much
experience.
more interesting. Definitely.
God, I had so many other things that we could have talked about. So you guys got to have me back.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we
Yeah,
could.
I'll have it back.
I wanna talk about Dogman more. I want to talk about these alleged Mothman sightings in
Yes.
Chicago, which I'm actually very skeptical of. I do believe in the Mothman, but what's the West Virginia one, not the
Yeah, the
Chicago
ones in the
ones.
Chicago area.
And then there's so much more that we gotta discuss. But so please have me back. And Nick, I want you in the studio for my podcasts in the next couple weeks.
Be more than happy to.
And then once I start doing online interviews, Joe, I'll have you interview you eventually. And Kate, you're right by Lisle, Illinois, which is where I have my studio. So maybe you could come on board and I could interview you.
Awesome. Yeah.
I would actually love that. But this time I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions because that's how
I'll
we're going to
prepare
do it.
myself.
And it doesn't, and Kate, it doesn't, if you watch the podcast, it's not all paranormal. I like to talk to people. I like to understand people. That's actually why I'm in the paranormal, because the heart of the paranormal is people and psychology and how people interact with the unknown, how people interact with the world around them. And that's what I like to learn about.
That's awesome. Yeah, that sounds great.
So thank you guys for having me. And thank you, Kate.
Thanks. Nice to
Yeah.
meet you, Jack. And thanks,
Yeah.
Nick and Joe, for having me on the show. I
Jack,
appreciate it.
if you guys want to connect too, I mean, I could send one of you. I could send
Stick
y'all one of your
around,
names
but
to
let
him
me
so
end this so that we don't step on other feet.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
let's do it.
So,
Bye.
till next week, stay safe and remember, anything's possible.
Good night, everyone.